everyone, this is Tabassum Hussain with Awais Qureshi here. I wanted to discuss a few things. We wanted to touch some very important topics which are very required and which require a lot of attention towards them, because most of the people do not understand the importance to creating a profile online, to creating the social media presence or their personal brands, right? So we wanted to touch those topics which are very important in this world when you are in the globalization and you go on those social media. So which one are more important, how to use, how not to use. But LinkedIn is one and only profile, one and only platform which is very suitable to use for the professional purpose and to develop a personal brand, and for your to showcase your career success and your professional activities as well. So Awais Qureshi is here with us today, with a rich background in recruiting industry, around 15 years of working with a big organization, Telecom, and different other financial organizations. Right now, currently he's working with TD Bank, and he is taking care of their technology portfolio these days. So Awais Qureshi, here you go.
Thank you, Tabassum, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I appreciate you having me here today. And this topic is super close to my heart. I mean, LinkedIn, or just in general, social media, I really feel that there is so much we can do to really create a buzz out there. So now, before we jump into LinkedIn, let me tell you why LinkedIn or other social media platforms are important for professionals or in general for anyone. Every time I ask people why LinkedIn is important or a social platform, they all say because branding. And people say branding is only required for larger corporations, business. And this is where I like to refocus on branding aspect. Branding is not only for large corporations, small businesses, or very specific professionals. I mean, sometimes people say, okay, branding could be required for only IT professionals. Branding is what you think of yourself. Branding for me is a pride of who you are as an individual or as a corporation or business. So branding is truly not tied to only one individual or one area of the industry. Branding is for everyone. We all take pride of who we are. I do, so do you. So as professionals, as long as you take pride and you really value what you bring to the industry, you need to brand yourself out there. People should know who you are. And this is where I think LinkedIn for professionals is super important. Not that it's not important for business. I mean, I'm sure you've seen that businesses really use LinkedIn platform very well to market their solutions, services. But talking about individuals and professionals, LinkedIn is single strongest branding platform out there. And now, again, as I mentioned earlier, you have to first know who you are, where you take pride before you actually even go LinkedIn. Because some people, very commonly in the recruitment space, we see people have LinkedIn profile only created there just to have a name there. The profiles are, which I call in my language, dead profiles, which they only have their names on there, no education, no experiences. To me, there's no point of having a profile there, which if you're not really going to take pride and putting an effort and really creating a good, nice profile.
Okay, so when we say branding, what actually the brand is, and when you're talking about showcasing the experience, so is it not enough that you're talking, you're telling that your designation, your company, or what do you see when you're seeing the experience of one individual, right? The key points which you want to see?
Multiple things. I mean, so if we're talking about professionals, then obviously you're right. I mean, you have to make sure that you spend time in talking about your certificates, your experiences. That's basic stuff to me. To me, going in there and actually putting your experience and certification, that's basic stuff. Where you really start going in depth is really how do you portray? I mean, do you have a nice professional picture? That's the first most important thing. I mean, for me, your picture is the first thing people look at. And some people argue, why should I have a picture? There is absolutely no reason to have one. But whatever you tag your profile, either it's an image, it's your personal picture, it has to be a nice professional image. As I said, it could be your own personal picture, it could be a background picture. It should be thoughtful. That's the first thing people look at. So that's how you start off with LinkedIn. And then having a small summary about yourself. I mean, again, just like any TV ad, before people jump into your deeper profile, they look at the first few bullet points. That for me is your 3 to 5 seconds elevator ad. Is that catchy? Are you able to really tell people who you are in 3 to 5 lines, right? Is your title very clear of who you are as an individual? I mean, some people just put Awais, like in my case, I mean, if I just put Awais Qureshi, people don't know who I am. So for me to really stand out and say, I'm Awais Qureshi and I'm a talent acquisition partner. So for me, that title there is super important. People usually forget that piece, right? So from there onwards, if we go downwards, again, there's so much more from the branding perspective we can do. If you for a minute wear your marketing hat and start thinking of a profile like an ad on TV, you will start looking at what should be there. Should there be more colors? Should there be more pictures? Should there be more logos? And that's how a true profile is created. I'll do my best if we have time today, Tabassum, to show my profile as well. Not that it's the best
That
branding
would be
profile,
really useful.
but yes, I mean, again, I'm sure people out there who have more stronger profiles than I do as well. But I feel at bare minimum, you should have a profile that stands out. Because for me as a recruiter, when I look at a resume, the first thing I do, Tabassum, is go to LinkedIn and see are they present in LinkedIn. If they have no
Yeah.
presence on LinkedIn, for me, truth be told, it's a red flag. And the reason behind is I look at someone's profile and say, why are they not on LinkedIn? Because for me, if you are applying for a job, if you're a professional especially, you need to have a LinkedIn profile. Now, people always ask me is, I'm a student, so why do I need a LinkedIn profile? You take pride in whatever you do. You could be a student and you could talk about your projects. I mean, your entire 1 to 4 year journey of schooling has so much experience you've gained. Your project work, you partner with your other members to maybe complete a research paper. So there's so much you can talk about there, right? You can get good recommendations from your students, from your professors. References and recommendation is super important on LinkedIn. That again sells a lot about you as an individual. How much pride you take on who you are, people are actually recommending you on LinkedIn.
Okay, that's very interesting because I have never thought from the student's perspective, because to me it was for professionals who have a certain number of experience or who are coming into the profession now, joining in to showcase their work and their capabilities. But that's very interesting because I have never thought of that it could be an important thing for a student as well. So
Absolutely. Actually, to be honest with you, I've done a lot of these sessions in universities, and it's becoming more and more in demand. Where schools now, actually all universities now, before you graduate, they call in professional photographers that will take your headshot for LinkedIn pictures.
what the language teaching? Okay.
Uh,
That's very interesting.
so students now know it is very important that they need to start showcasing their experience, their profile before they even graduate. Again, it's all about pride because you're competing with a very tough market. Are you someone who really enjoys what they do? And if you do, then how are you showcasing it?
Okay, so while we are talking about the LinkedIn branding, importance of showcasing work and everything, I have one more question for you because you are a recruiter and now we can ask anything from you, right? Okay, so you said something about the resume that if I'll pick a resume and I don't see a LinkedIn profile, I'll be disappointed, right? And you'll feel that that person is not confident enough or they're not showcasing their work. So how much practically in a true world a recruiter can spend time in seeing or screening the resume? How much time do you spend on one resume?
So, I mean, looking at someone's LinkedIn profile is the next step. Obviously, the first step is to see if this person is qualified.
Yes.
So as recruiters, it's a very common practice. All recruiters, they will first shortlist resumes.
Yeah.
So depending on how many resumes we get, depending on what the job expectation is, I would say in most cases, a recruiter is looking at 50 to 100 resumes, and the
Yeah.
first batch is going to be 10 resumes. So
Okay.
once we've shortlisted 10 resumes, now to further shortlist, we'll see on LinkedIn and see how well the resume is designed, all that stuff, right? Because everything will be looked at. How is a resume designed? Is it grammatically error free? Is it a nice looking resume? Does it
Okay.
have proper content? Do they have LinkedIn profile? Now, if, for example, I have 10 resumes that I love all of them and they're very strong, and then none of them have LinkedIn profile, that does not mean I'm going to disqualify all of them. So not having a LinkedIn profile, I want to make sure I say this very clearly, not having a LinkedIn profile does not disqualify you from the application process. But the difference is when we're shortlisting, and if I have 10 very strong resumes, and out of the 10, 5 of them have LinkedIn profile and they have project experience there, they have recommendations, automatically those 5 will stand out more than the other 5.
That's very true. That's very true. So it sounds like the way you are telling all the details is like it looks like that you or recruiters in general spend a lot of time on resumes. But what my perspective is and what I hear from everywhere that it is like around 5 to 10 seconds, and if that resume can catch your interest, you will go and read more details. Or is it true, or it is just
Absolutely. The first glance, obviously, we take multiple glances. The first glance when we are actually screening the 100 resume funnel that we call, it's not more than 5 seconds. I have to go through 100 resumes. Right?
yeah,
So I'm not going to spend more than 5 seconds. I mean, I would say the golden time frame is 5 to 7 seconds at the most.
yeah.
And once we've shortlisted out of the 100 resumes, for example, 20 resumes, obviously then we'll take a deeper dive, right? Once we really start feeling this, that we have people who we want to talk to, then obviously we will do a lot of time investment in their resume. We'll go
Of
through
course.
the entire resume. But the first glance is maximum 7 seconds, and this is why I always say, I mean, your resume is a walking ad. So you need to make sure that your first page is really the best you can be. And people a lot of times feel that, I will have 4 page resumes. I have nothing against long resumes, Muslim, and we're going off topic here, but I have nothing against long resumes. However, I feel that your first page really should capture all the interest of a recruiter or hiring manager, because if that does not happen, then no matter how good you are, they have to move on to the next resume.
That's very true. So it should have all the right ingredients, I would say, because we
Yeah.
are talking about the marketing ads, showcasing everything. So all the right components, all the key areas which you want to showcase, that should be there. And LinkedIn profile is one of them. So anyone who's seeing your resume, they can go and they can see your live performance, see your interactions, see your articles, see your posts, and see your profile as well, that how you have showcased your achievements as well, right? So do you want to share a sample? I think you were.
Sure. Before I'll do that as well. And before we leave this topic of LinkedIn, one other reason why LinkedIn is super important is because as recruiters, not only am I looking for the fact that how strong of a branding you have there, how strong of presence you have there, do you have a good profile, but LinkedIn also is another plus point for recruiters, and that is, this is a hidden secret that today you're finding out from me, is a lot of times recruiters want to know the person who they're looking at. Who do they know? Because that person, I might know them through someone else. And if we have a common connection, we can actually do backdoor references on them and say, hey, you know what, this person applied for this job. Are they good? Or I might find out this person worked for the same hiring manager in a previous company. Automatically now for me, that's a plus point.
Okay. So
Because
it is not only like it is just presence on LinkedIn and creating your connections and creating a proper positive image. It involves a lot of things. It's not just what we see from the surface.
that's correct, yes.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much for sharing that.
No worries. Let me know if you can see my desktop, and I
Yes, I
will.
can.
Okay, perfect.
And because I
So
thought, thank you very much for sharing it, because I think visuals work strongly than the words, right? So
I
if
agree.
you can see the
Absolutely.
visuals, it will be more helpful.
Obviously, it's a much younger picture of mine here, and that's how I trick people to believe I'm any younger in age. But that's what I mean. I mean, in terms of for me, obviously, I'm a recruitment professional, so my background, as you see here, talks about recruitment, and obviously, I have a very professional picture here. So this is what I mean. I mean, if you are hiring manager Tabassum, and the first thing you see my profile now by itself, you know I'm a recruiter. I mean, there is no second guess to this. You know what my profession is, very loud and clear. I have a very strong title at the bottom. What I do, you see a background which talks about exactly my profession. So there's no second guess.
Okay, I have one question for you. Some of the profiles when I see, or I receive some requests for the connections under the name, I don't know what people think about the title. Very enthusiastic, life-changing, motivating person. Like these are the personal characteristics. Do you think that is the right place to display those things, or what should exactly be displayed here when we're, you know?
So there are obviously difference of opinion here. I mean, some people feel that it is nice to be creative there. My personal opinion is to really be to keep it very simple and really have the title that you are representing. Because again, I mean, yes, I mean you can make it catchier, but I mean, from my perspective, honestly, and I'm sure a lot of my fellow colleagues agree with this, is that your title should be really standing out of who you
Yes.
are. Um, However, that being said, there are a few things that you can do to be creative, which is, in my case, for example, let's assume that I was no longer working at TD and I was looking for a job. Then I could be editing my title by saying my title, talent acquisition partner, looking for my next opportunity.
So is
And
it
that's
a good
fine.
impression? Like if anyone is
Yes and
listening,
no. Again, yes and no. I mean, it all depends. I mean, truth be told, if you're actively looking, then you're looking, right? I mean, there's no hiding. If I'm currently working at TD, and then if I mention this, then obviously it's a bad message. But if I'm no longer working at TD and I'm really looking for my next opportunity, then there is no harm. And I'll tell you, there's actually more positive than negative. And the reason because as a recruiter, most recruiters actually also search profiles on LinkedIn. So I mean, this is, as you can see, we have a search bar on top.
yeah.
Obviously, we recruiters have a premium access, which we can search in more detail. So the first thing we would search is profiles that say looking for opportunities, available for opportunities, because that makes it quicker for us. So
That's
I,
interesting.
yes, I always suggest that. I mean, there is absolutely no harm in putting in looking for opportunities. However, keep in mind that is if you are not currently working, because if you're working, that's the last thing you want your employer to know, that you're actively looking for work, right? So I
That's
mean,
very true.
you gotta be very careful with this stuff. So I mean, there's no harm with it as long as you're being smart about it.
Okay.
So I mean, moving forward now, as you can see, it's a very quick. I have a profile blurb here about who I am, what I've been doing. I can actually go a bit more detail here. So I talk about my profession here, what companies I've worked for, what my expertise are. It's really a very quick blurb. And this is what I mean by when I say this is my 3 to 5 seconds pitch.
Mm.
So whoever gets to see this first should automatically know who I am and what my brand is. And obviously now they can dive a deep if sorry now they can deep dive if they need to. I have some, I would say, accomplishments here, Six Sigma, and I have my technology course. Actually have my resume here as well. So one thing I always suggest is you should always have your resume attached on LinkedIn. So if you see here, so this is actually my resume, which can be accessed
So
from LinkedIn.
even though you have your LinkedIn profile, which actually is your resume and it's telling the whole story about you, you
Yes
keep a
and no.
separate
See,
resume.
again, remember LinkedIn, you're not copy pasting your resume there. LinkedIn is something that you're telling people, again, you're giving them a snapshot of who you are as an individual versus your resume. I mean, most times you will see if you go on LinkedIn, people actually have their exact resume there. That is not what LinkedIn is there for. People actually want, as I said, people want to know who you are as an individual, what you take pride versus resume. There is no harm. I rather have someone have their resume there versus have nothing there. But again, the key reason for LinkedIn is to really sell the fun part versus just a dry resume. But again, the reason why you have a resume there is because if now someone says, I like a Wes's profile, I really want to see, I mean, I want to forward to my client, then now they have access. They don't have to first reach out to me. Um, some people feel it very confidential. Again, it's an option. But I said, I mean, if you're using LinkedIn, it all depends on what your purpose of using LinkedIn is. If you're actually using
Yeah.
LinkedIn for profession, and if this is also a platform that you use to look for jobs, then
Mhm.
obviously you would want to show your resume. If this platform is used only from business perspective, or if you just want to make sure that you stay in touch with your contacts, then you might not want to have a LinkedIn profile. So it really depends on what the reason is behind.
Yeah.
I would say it's becoming common practice now. People
Mhm.
actually have the resume attached, because if I were to scroll back up, And if I were to do more, I can actually save to PDF. Now, if I do save to PDF here, it will actually save. Let me see if I can show it to you. It will actually save my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Which, as you can see here, this is not my resume though. So now this is what LinkedIn copy pasted my profile into a PDF. It's not very nice looking PDF.
Yeah, I got it.
It's not bad, but it's not very nice looking. Versus my own personal resume that I have there, it's a much nicer file. It's a much nicer view, and I've actually, as I mean, I put an effort there. So it really depends on an individual. It's a personal choice, as I mentioned. Now, moving down, as you can see, I mean, I have again my history here. Now, what I have, again, it's a personal choice. I always add pictures. People always ask me, why are you adding pictures on your, because for me, I'm showing who I'm as an individual, what my value is in teams. If I were to pick on this picture, for example, this is my team picture. Now it tells, if someone is looking at my picture, they say, wow, Awais is really a team person. He
You
works
are the only one who's wearing the jacket, by the way.
That is true. Yes, I'm known in my company to always wear coats. So my purpose here is, I mean, again, it's all about your brand. You might not want to do it. It's a personal choice, but I always make sure that I add pictures because it shows the environment you work in. It shows what value you add.
Yes.
Again, my previous company, this is a job fair. Now I want to show my next employer that I actually participate in job fairs, right? So again, really, it depends on what the purpose is.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
so again, if you see all my profiles, almost all of them have a picture of them. So that's what I really mean by branding. And honestly, you can do so much more on LinkedIn. However, my goal is to really let people see this profile and say, okay, because truth be told, once they see my profile, Tabassum, now they have a very different image of me.
That's true.
Now there's no more guessworks. Now they, in their mind, now when they look at my resume, they have a perception of who I am. Always is a fun person. He's a team kind of person. He likes to work in a team
I
and
think
fun
post
culture.
and articles also counts a lot.
Absolutely, 100%. Um, obviously, this is where you will see activity. So
Because
as
when you were talking about the resume pasted on the LinkedIn, so I'm that person. So which is why I was like smiling. Okay, so he's talking about me.
so if I were to go back once again just to show you,
Yeah.
so as if you were to go under activity of any profile and do see all, then you will in most cases see all the activity the recruiter or the person has been involved with.
Yes.
In my case, I've actually not done a lot of postings recently, but at least it shows you that I've been active in the market. People can see that I've been posting stuff for 1 week, 2 weeks. So I'm really live. Obviously, if you have your own post, that's even better. But at least it just shows that I'm active on LinkedIn and I'm sharing stuff with my community.
And it shows
With
your
my
interest that if what
Absolutely, I'm glad you brought it up because when people see the kind of post I've been sharing, that tells them what my thought process is. Am I interested in technology? Am I sharing positive stuff? Like in this case, for example, now I'm sharing with people what I feel about kids. It shows how you look at things, right? It shows what you feel about the community, about the kids around you,
Okay.
about, please.
How do you feel that it is important to show your community engagements as well? Like it's a professional platform, but we have like the values you support, the communities you support, the cause you support. So all those areas, though they are not directly professional profile things, but do you think it is a good idea to share that stuff?
Absolutely. Actually, I previously had a video that I had taken out because of confidential reasons, but I actually had a video of United Way. So I had a video also added in my profile where I was supporting a big United Way campaign. So absolutely, to show your volunteer. Again, at the end of the day, you're showing your personality, who you are. Are you just very focused on one aspect of your career, or are you someone who is an all-rounder who can do a lot of stuff, who focuses on the community, who focuses on giving back to the community, as I mentioned earlier. So for me, that's important. Stuff is very important as a
This is
recruiter.
something which can impress like recruiters itself. Like you as a recruiter will see only their professional achievements, their designations, their certificates, degrees, or as a recruiter as well, you will go in these details as well.
So as a recruiter, some people might go, some people might not do, but don't forget, a recruiter is just the first step.
Yeah.
So after a recruiter has shortlisted your profile, the next thing that happens is they send your profile to the hiring manager.
Hiring
The
manager,
hiring
the
manager
team
will be
lead.
doing the same practice as a recruiter did, but they will take a much more deeper dive. So for a hiring manager, that might be more important. That yes, I already have a paper resume which everything matches. What else has been, because from a hiring manager perspective, now they're looking for a true person in regards to culture, their engagements outside work. So for a hiring manager, this stuff is way more important than actually a recruiter.
Okay. So, and yes, of course, to adopt the company culture and what kind of person you are, that you should be able to adjust in that team, right? So it is very important.
Absolutely. So, I mean, in today's day and age, I mean, truth be told, I mean, people are actually looking for more of a culture fit
Mhm.
versus skill fit.
This is
That's
what I am also noticing.
and that's a big thing in the recruiting industry nowadays. I mean, people always say, I always tell people that I, as a recruiter, judge people on the three I's, I call it. And the first I is integrity, the second I is intensity, the third I is intelligence. Intelligence is the last. I mean, it's obviously important, 100%. But the integrity and the intensity piece, which basically means the energy, is more important than intelligence. So really, for us to see the person who is culture fit, has the energy, is trainable, is more important than someone who has all the skills that we're looking for, but will not match our culture.
I'm so perfect for all the jobs then. Okay.
Yes, of course.
Energy is like overflowing. Okay, yes. But it is very, all these facts are so interesting. And I feel that, in some of the resumes and the interviews, what I've heard that instead of asking about their skill sets, their technical skills, they were more wanted to know that, how good they are with the people, what are their leadership style, what is their management style, what will they do in the conflict situation. So all the people things that lie, right? So how you will adjust in that environment.
Yes,
So this,
absolutely. And I just wanted to quickly show you one last thing before we end here is the reference piece, which I was talking earlier about. Now, if you can see here, that under recommendations, I've been given 23 recommendations. And these are all by my managers, by people who I've worked with. And this has been my biggest pride when it comes to my LinkedIn profile, because these are people who actually I've worked with. These are not random people who I've worked with. So now for let's say if you were hiring for a recruiter or talent acquisition partner, the first thing you'll say is, Chris Patinios is Oasis old manager. Let's see where he's currently working. So you'll click on his profile, you'll go in to verify that Chris is an actual person and this is not
yes,
a fake. So now you can see that Chris is an actual person. He works in Canada. He was my manager in my previous company. So now you have a true person. I mean, now you don't even have to actually do reference checks on me, because now you have an actual live reference here. So for
yes.
you as a hiring manager, you see the pride I take, you see all my ex-bosses here, you see people who I worked with. So for me, this is my biggest pride. So I always tell people, to your earlier point, if you were a student, everyone can showcase this. If you're a student, you can showcase, you can mention a professor, right? Or someone who you have worked with on a project, right? And I see this all the time. But when I see student profiles, I see references from the professors, from their team people, from their peers in the classes. So again, I'm sure you can find people who you've worked with, and they can truly speak about your experience and your skills.
That's very true. I think I have learned a lot of things today. I need to go back and fix them. I don't know what it will take, but it's a very good information. I would say that a huge amount of information which people should know and understand. And from the recruiter perspective, that how recruiting industry and the recruiters or hiring managers see people and their profiles, which normally we don't understand from our end, right? So it is very important to understand that perspective.
Absolutely, and truth be told, this is the first piece. I mean, this is the first thing you have to do is make sure you go out there and create a good LinkedIn profile, good presence. The next piece is how do you actually use the tool? I always tell people always come and say, how do I look for a job on LinkedIn? I say that's the second piece. I mean, before you even start looking for jobs on LinkedIn, you have to
Mhm.
first know how are you selling yourself on LinkedIn? Because if I were to look for jobs on LinkedIn with not a professional profile, not a clean profile, I'm
Mhm.
actually damaging my profile. I'm actually damaging my chances of getting the job. So looking for a job on LinkedIn, which is obviously from my perspective as a recruiter, I will tell you that that LinkedIn is the best platform for looking for jobs. The first step is to have a nice, active, clean profile, and then once you have that, you can honestly speaking, people nowadays don't get jobs through a traditional model. It's through LinkedIn primarily.
Wow, that's really good. And we are actually conducting a workshop on February 21st, and we will be covering all these topics and how to create a
Excellent.
LinkedIn profile and optimization and everything, and all the details about it. So it's a very good time that we have a recruiter's perspective as well, and in this regard. So thank you very much, Awais. I'm really happy, and thank you very much for sharing all the information and your experience. Is there any, I would say, concluding remark or any three best tips which you feel that, this is something which no one should miss out and it should be there?
I mean, again, as mentioned earlier, really to focus on having first and foremost a nice, presentable picture that represents you, because that's the first thing people look at. That's your first branding thing for me is a picture or the background image that you have, and then really having a very clear reason. You need to understand why you are on LinkedIn, right? That's how you start thinking. If you're on LinkedIn to really sell yourself, brand yourself, then that's how you have to look at LinkedIn. If you're just there for keeping in touch with people, then your purpose is different, then, right? So from my perspective, having a very nice profile picture, having a very clear title of who you are, and you don't want to be really giving a quick snapshot of your profile history. Don't put your resume there. If you ask me, I always say talk about yourself as a human, who you are. So really a brief snapshot of you, who you are, small blurbs on each of your experiences versus a lot of information. So if you can just do these three aspects, that by itself will complete your profile, and then obviously you can add more stuff as well. So just to repeat myself again, picture or background image is super important. Your name and title should be very clear, and then really small blurbs and highlight your experience under your skill set, under your experience, just to really showcase who you are versus a detailed resume.
That's really great. Thank you very much for so nicely conclude all the details. But I think there's still a lot of information which is left and we should be talking about. But I think that's enough for today, and we can touch on all those details in other episodes as well. So
Absolutely,
thank you very
it
much,
would be a
Awais.
pleasure. Thank you for having me here. I wish you and your team all the best.
Thank you very much.